Welcome down to Live at Lunch show, everybody. It's great if you've joined us and come onto the stream. If you're eating your lunch, you can start to leave comments right away telling us what you're eating. We are really interested. I think we should kind of start running a competition to see who's got the best lunch. Also, so we can plot and plan how to connect with them. I'm excited. We have Phil Coleman in the house with us today. How are you, Phil?
I'm good. How are you doing, Richard?
I'm good. I am good, thank you.
How's everyone out there?
Well, we'll hopefully begin to see some comments coming in and people can start to post and we'll begin to throw those up. So if you are online, please pop a comment on there. Don't be scared to abuse Phil. He's absolutely there. We've already got one coming in. I love this. Steve Gregg, yes, boring lunch, toast.
Toast.
What, Phil, are you having for lunch?
Do you honestly want to see?
Yeah, I want to see.
Right, I haven't really had time to make lunch, so this is what I've picked up. And look at
an apple.
Look at the
I'm worried because it's already brown. Is that someone else's apple that you're eating?
It's one of those old ones, you know, when you leave them in the fruit bowl too long.
Oh, yeah.
So I took a few bites. I thought, no, I'm not having that. So I'll have something after this little. So let's get this thing done because I'm hungry.
All right, fair enough. Just for people out there, just so you know, I rang Phil a little bit earlier on just to be like, hey, are you ready to go? Looking forward to the show. It's going to be a great time. He was out on a run. That's dedication. He was sweating, and what it looked like you were running through like mud parts. I was just like, What is happening?
I was still sweating. Were you on FaceTime then when you rang me?
Yeah, I was on FaceTime.
Oh, really? So you? All right, okay.
I'm loving this. We've got things coming in. Fiona Wood says, I'm from the Lighthouse Family Church. Hey, Fiona, how are you doing? Just checking in to say hi. I've just had my Cambridge Diet chocolate mint shake. Yummy. Seriously. And then on fire emojis. So it could be a chili chocolate. Who knows? Put you on fire. I don't know. Anything could be happening. And Jonathan has sent in a message. Jonathan and them have sent in a message. They're from Australia. So they've had a late night cheese and herb omelet. They're really doing like midnight snack live with us rather than lunch, live at lunch, which is great.
Midnight, I suppose, over there, isn't it?
Well, I don't really know. I'm just guessing, dude. What you asking me? So we've got some great guests on today, and we're going to be jumping into the Sunday message. Phil, you delivered an absolute cracker of a message. And so I thought I'd try something a little bit fancy today. This could go horribly wrong. We're going to quickly run a bumper, and then I'm going to bring in the guests. So let's see what happens. This could just become horrendous. If it is, bear with us, but I think this could be fun. Here we go. And we're back.
It worked.
We've got Louise Bird, lead pastor extraordinaire from Sunny Hill. Great to see you, Louise. And with us today, breaking up her workday, is Jo Mengel. Hey, Jo, how are you?
Hello, everybody. Good to see you. I'm good.
Jo, most important question off the bat, what are you eating for lunch?
Right, just to carry on the theme from last week, I'm eating leftovers. So every day I eat leftovers. So today it is leftover like garlic chickeny rice from tea last night.
I feel like you have portion control issues in your cooking, Jo. Is this correct?
Say that again?
Do you have portion control cookings in your like portion control in your cooking? Because you always seem to have leftovers.
Yeah, that's the point, Richard. Like, I stopped for lunch. Who has time to make sandwiches? I'm just going to make a plate of leftovers. Reheat. That is the one bonus of working from home.
Very
nice. You
nice.
Get straight out the fridge, in the microwave, bang bosh, lunch done.
All done. So, Louise Bird, what are you snacking on right now?
Well, because I don't want to have E. coli, I tend not to just microwave leftovers. So love that you have a woman of nature.
I'm not dead yet.
I have a mugshot.
Nice.
It feels like that's what the Sunny Hill staff team just eat. Like, we consume them more than anything else. I feel like it's always a mugshot. So
you and Dom do.
Dom and Jake, and I've supplied Richard with some
Yeah.
mugshots. So I think
as well.
Phil, you're missing out, man. You're missing out.
Full
They're not
dose of
tasty,
superfoods.
Phil. Come over for
Full
some
dose of the
leftovers.
superfoods. Rotten apple.
Yeah, don't lecture me, Phil. Flipping heck, mate.
So hopefully you guys caught the sermon on Sunday, because we're going to be chatting a bit about that. Phil did such a great message, and so I wanted to kind of jump right in. And Phil, I've got a question straight off the bat for you. On Sunday, you seem to make a large point about saying that Emily, your wife, has got it. My question was, if we flipped the tables, we brought Emily on and we kind of said to her, Emily, does Phil have it? Would she respond with yes, or would she go, let's move on to a better question?
Yes, mate, that would be yes all day long. Whatever it is.
Yeah. That's the next question then, I suppose. When she says yes, he's got it. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Because as you said, it could have many meanings.
Well, you be the judge of that. I wouldn't want to open up your imagination. You can decide. I know what I'm thinking, but it's probably best not to share that.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Sunny Hill has actually officially posted mugshots all around.
Yeah, it's the official Sunny Hill that I've got involved now. That's it.
And just to settle this, in Australia right now, Jonathan's told us it is 11 p.m. at night. So it's not quite midnight yet, but it is rushing up to midnight. So Phil, can you unpack a little bit from your sermon what you were thinking around when you were talking about it, and you were saying, have you got it? What are you really kind of getting into? What do you want us to walk away with when you're saying that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I began the sermon by just sort of pointing out that words can have many, many different meanings, especially the word it, depending on the context that word is found in. It can mean anything. And it wasn't my intention to do a grammar lesson as part of my Sunday morning sermon. It was really just a hook to try and get us into a particular couple of verses found in the book of Titus, where in some translations, not all translations of this particular verse, the word it really is the hinge on which the whole force of the verse turns. Did you want me to share the verse now, or do you want to get into that later?
Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I can't even remember it.
Titus 2.
And, I'm using Titus, Phil, so
Titus 2, 11 and 12, Phil.
There we go, yeah. Here we go. Let me read it out.
Someone was listening, Lou.
Yeah,
So-
right.
hey, Lou's got her notebook and everything. Go,
Yeah.
Louise.
I was on camera. I had to listen, so
You
I
did.
made notes.
It's true. It's true.
Okay, so Titus 2, 11 to 12 says, "For the grace of God has appeared that offers salvation to all people. It teaches us to say no to ungodliness and worldly passions, and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives in this present age, while we wait for the blessed hope, the appearing of our glory and great God and Savior Jesus Christ." In that particular translation, I don't know what translations others are reading, but the word it is the hinge really on which it all turns. Like, what is it that produces godliness, uprightness, self-control? What is it that causes the people of God to say no to ungodliness? And in that particular translation, the word it is connected to the concept of the grace of God. So, you know, it wasn't a grammar lesson. It was more just a hook to try and get us in to understanding the connection between godliness and grace.
And when you're beginning to talk about the grace of God, what are you really thinking about? Because I think it's an interesting term that Christians use a lot, but actually it's just a good, it sounds good when you pray it. But what really is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it is a very familiar word, isn't it, to all of us who have been connected to church and faith for any length of time, really. We use the word all the time. And I think sometimes because we use the word so often, the meaning of it is often diluted somewhat. You know, familiarity and all that, you kind of lose the full force of it. I think anything we do over and over again, we have to work hard to maintain a true and proper understanding of it. And I would say grace for us and for many has become a word which we all know is good and positive and something that we all want and we all need. But perhaps the word grace, or the concept of grace, has come to mean less than what the biblical authors actually meant when they wrote about it. And so I made the point on Sunday, which I think is the point that the Apostle Paul makes in Titus 2, that the grace of God is more than just an abstract concept just floating around in the sky somewhere. It's more than just a theological construct or like a particular quality or characteristic. It is those things, because we can often talk about people being gracious or people behaving in a gracious way or performing with grace, you know. And so there is a sense in which grace can be and is a quality or a characteristic. But I think the point the Apostle Paul is trying to make in Titus 2 is that grace is, there's a concreteness about grace. It has some substance. It has, you know, there is substance to grace, because he says the grace of God has appeared. You don't talk about concepts appearing. You don't talk about a particular characteristic appearing. Paul says grace has appeared. And so I'm convinced that what Paul meant when he said grace has appeared is he was using grace as a synonym for Jesus, who we're told in Colossians and who we're told in John 1 is the embodiment of grace. You know, John 1 says Jesus appeared full of grace and truth. And so grace is such a deep, wide, rich and profound word. But I think if you really want to sum it up in one word, Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? Jesus is grace.
It's great. Joe, I'm going to kind of flip it onto you, because obviously we've all heard the adage, what's the answer to the question?
You cut out at that point. I've no idea what you said.
Oh, we've all heard the adage, what's the answer to the question? And we all know what the answer is. Anybody going to say the answer?
Jesus.
There we go.
Jesus,
Louise. Well
of course.
Deeply concerned that was so difficult for us to pull off.
You just kept cutting out at the key moment, Richard. You just kept cutting out. Can I just say, though, I feel like I'm not bright enough for this, because I feel like I need to go back to my childhood to be able to answer that question of what grace is. Is anybody else from the Ishmael generation? Anybody else do spring harvest in Ishmael days, or am I just too old for that?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, I love you, Joe.
I don't know
Grace
what you're talking
God
about.
gives us what we don't deserve. And there's a song. I could sing it if you like.
Do it.
Go, sing it, do it.
Oh, there's no Goldenbergs around. They'd know this. Grace is when God gives us the things we don't deserve. So anyway, that's all you're going to get.
In response to that, all I can do is this, Joe. And we're back after that musical interlude.
I'm glad you put that on instead of me singing.
Go for it, Joe. Hello? Joe, can you hear me?
I can now.
Oh.
Sorry, everything froze.
That's cool. Sorry, you were in the middle of saying grace. You need to feel like you need to go back to when you were a child again.
No, I just felt like, you know, it is such a big concept, isn't it? And it's hard to kind of pin down in real life. What does that mean? And for me, I always find myself when I get lost in the kind of, it's such a big thing. And what does it mean? It's this big sort of religious concept. But actually, I go back to, you know, this is God doing for me, Jesus doing for me what I don't deserve. This is undeserved favor from God. And, you know, so for me in practical terms, I'm often thinking like, God doesn't give me what I deserve. He doesn't give me the punishment I deserve. He doesn't give me, we have a lot in life. We often think a lot about, I want my just desserts. I want what's owing to me. I want to get what I'm deserved. And actually we really don't want what we deserve.
No.
It would not be good for me if I got what I deserved, especially not after singing. So actually,
it's true. I mean, there is support for singing that you're singing right there, which is, I mean, to be honest, it is Dom. So we'll take that for what it is, because it's Dom saying nice singing. But we'll run with it for now. Great comment from Jonathan saying Jesus is the source and embodiment of grace and truth. Yeah. I wonder, Louise, but in your life, even though we all affirm that, and we would all affirm that the one word answer, if you boiled it down to it, what is this thing? It's Jesus. Like practically in your life, what does that actually mean? What does it mean as a wife? What does it mean as a mother? What does it mean as even somebody who's working in church? How is this idea of grace and it's actually Jesus at the heart of it? What practical kind of implication does it have?
Good question. I think for me, certainly, I think it's coming to a realization that I can do nothing without Jesus. I think, and I literally mean nothing. It's not just the super spiritual stuff that I can do, that I can't do without Jesus. It's literally, I can't do anything without Jesus. That the only reason why I exist, the only reason why I'm breathing the air that I'm breathing is because of Jesus. He's the reason why I'm here. He's the reason why I breathed that last breath. He's the reason that I'll hopefully breathe the next one. And it's just a recognition that Jesus is the answer, because there is nothing that exists without him. And he's the reason why it exists. It exists through him and it exists for him. And so it's kind of like we just orbit this purpose that is Jesus. And that's the central reason for everything.
Yeah.
And Joe, in your workplace, how do you think that manifests itself? Like, what does it look like?
I think it's about having where your eyes are set during the day. Because I love what you say, Lou, about, everything is about Jesus. And it's easy to remember that on a Sunday when we are talking about Jesus, when he's on the tip of our tongues all the time. Throughout your day, it's easy to forget that. It's easy to forget and to take your eyes off that focus. So for me, during the day, it's about remembering him in every step of things and remembering in every interaction what I want to do, how I want to respond. It is irrelevant, because how God wants me to respond, how Jesus would want me to respond, how he would respond in this situation is what's required. And I don't manage that. I don't manage that all the time. You may even have heard me yelling at my husband a minute ago, I've got no Wi-Fi, stop. That's not being gracious. And being gracious is being able to continue not giving people what they deserve in that moment, but giving them the response that Jesus would give them. And remembering my dependence on Jesus, and that I owe him everything, and therefore I need to behave in a gracious manner to those around me.
I think there's that's great. I think that's you're absolutely right. But I do think also there's a danger in that not a danger, but a temptation to move towards what does grace mean for my behavior before what does grace mean for who I am. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think grace appearing and grace invading our lives is about the presence and the beauty of Jesus, being made manifest before us. And because of his beauty and his sufficiency, it reorders our priorities, it reconfigures our affections, because in Christ we see something that's more fulfilling and satisfying and beautiful than anything this world could ever offer. And so it's as we behold the beauty of the substance of grace, the desires of our hearts begin to change, And so therefore we begin to behave in ways that line up more with what God is calling us to. And so grace is more than just God's been gracious to me, so I need to be gracious to others, because in a sense that's almost like I need to pay God back, you know. I need to return the favor in some sense, which it is. It's a good motivation. God's been good to me, so I must be good to others. But I think what I was trying to press on Sunday is grace comes to us in the person of Jesus. And the person of Jesus, when he is seen clearly, he stirs our affections and he transforms our desires because of his beauty. And it's out of that we begin to behave differently. And sometimes I think we miss that middle bit and we move straight to behavior, which is fine. It's not a problem. It's a good and it's a right thing to do. But if we just behave, if we focus all on what grace means for my behavior rather than what grace is in terms of my relationship with Jesus, then at some point it's going to get exhausting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We actually had a really interesting discussion about this in our life group last night, which is where these discussions come from. We were looking at Colossians 3, Phil, which was, you know, one of your questions from there. And we were reading, you know, how our old lives are dead and this is what our new lives need to look like. And members of the group were saying, whoa, that is full on. Like, is that even possible? Is it possible to put aside all those other behaviors? And we were saying, you know, but actually it's not about that. It's not about living up to a set of standards. This is about our eyes are somewhere else, our perspective somewhere else. And I think the message puts it beautifully. I think it says something like, can I read it?
Go for it.
So if you're serious about living this new resurrection life with Christ, act like it. Pursue the things which Christ presides. Don't shuffle along, eyes to the ground, absorbed with the things right in front of you. Look up and be alert to what's going on around in Christ. That's where the action is. See things from his perspective. And it was just about, you know, your perspective becomes Jesus. He's all consuming, as Lou says. He fills your perspective. And with that, everything changes. And it doesn't become about, I have this set of standards I have to meet, or I have to be nice to them, I have to be a good person because I'm a Christian and that's the right. It's not about that. It stops being about that. It begins about being about what God has changed in you, how he has transformed your life. You want nothing more than to have him at the center of what you're doing. So it feels like a subtle shift, but it stops feeling like a pressure and starts feeling like a privilege.
Good.
Life.
How do we kind of enact that? Like Louise, in reality, you know, you're married to Dom. Some would say that it could be a challenge. I'm not the person saying that. I'm just saying some could say. And hey, if you are online and you're busy watching us, please let us know what you're having for lunch. Firstly, we would love to get into a bit of that. But if you have questions, throw them in. We would love to throw them out. But in reality, how do you, you know, Dom's been an idiot. Your kids are kicking off at home. I mean, impossible. I'm saying, let's just say that happened. Just to say, your kids are kicking off at home. Your washing machine has just broken down, and all of a sudden there's somebody who's on the Live at Lunch show, the best thing Sunny Hill's ever done, an amazing thing. And what they've said is, yeah, the key is just keep your perspective, just keep your eyes kind of on Jesus, just keep that the main focus. How do you do that in reality, like in your actual craziness of your life? And I may flip it then onto you, Joe, to just talk about what that's like at your workplace. A little bit. So go for it, Louise.
Yeah, I think we've done something in Christianity where we kind of have a secular and a spiritual, which I think is really unhelpful. I think sometimes we think that this is my church bit, and then this is the rest of my life bit. This is the bit that I do for God, and then this is the rest of my life. And we've kind of separated something within that. But I think what Phil was talking about on Sunday was that it's an all-consuming thing, that it's not just a revelation for one area of my life. It totally reorders absolutely everything, so that my focus is all on that now. So that means that the way I parent has to change. Well, not has to change, but the way I parent does change, because I'm doing it for Jesus now. And it's not a workspace thing, but it's a revelation based thing. So it's not about me. I've got to get this right because I'm doing it for God. I've got to put everything in order because I'm doing it for God. But it's just that kind of his desires become my desires. His priorities kind of become my priorities, and it's like shifting out one lens for another lens, and then viewing everything differently because of that. It's like the grace filter, you know, like the old Instagram filters. Like the grace filter suddenly goes onto your world, and you start loving your kids differently. You start behaving in your marriage differently. You start ordering your finances differently, not as a kind of, I've got to get this right because otherwise I'm going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
And there is a weird blur between disciplines being essential within that, because I think that is a really important thing, that we don't just want this hippie version of faith where it's all like, yeah, I just feel like this is what God's doing, but that actually it does then require order. It does require instilling disciplines to protect it, but at the same time it should change everything. When we truly get who Jesus is to each one of us, it changes everything. Like the superficial to the core, the secular to the spiritual, it all is just transformed. It's not what was it that you said, Phil? It was something about it's a heart transformation. It's not behavior modification. It's heart transformation. And I think it's that, isn't it? It's that you literally become a completely different person when you've seen the face of grace. Your whole world has changed. And when you meet someone who's become a Christian, like it's literally like a personality transplant. It's literally like a whole life transplant. They're a new creation now, so they live out of that new creation. The old is gone and the new has come, and this is now how I outwork my life. So it affects my leaky washing machine as well.
That's great. Just before we jump to Joe, I've just been made aware we seem to have 2 different groups running on Facebook, all both streaming the Live at Lunch, and I'm not too sure why that is, and I have no idea how to fix it. So if you are on the group where, like, Adam's posted a great question and Hattie's been posting some great stuff on it, I've just got some screenshots of it. If possible, can you jump across to the other group? I have no idea how you would do that, or how that works, but if you can jump onto the other group, we'd love to get some of your thoughts and questions in. I'm going to quickly let Joe jump into how does this kind of manifest itself in reality in your workplace, Joe? What does it mean? Especially when you're having tough clients, hard time with your boss. How does grace kind of actually unfold itself?
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a good point, Lou, actually, that you carry into your day the same perspective as you do the rest of it. So you're taking that perspective of Jesus as center into those situations. So I think, you know, in church on a Sunday, I'm knowing that he's victorious overall, that that he's in control, that I can trust him with these things.
Yeah.
So therefore, my attitude going into work is that's the same. That's the same. He's as gracious to me in work as he is outside of work. And so in my encounters and in my conversations, I'm wanting to reflect the kind of the security that brings me, the joy that brings me, the authority that brings, to, you know, avoid. It's been a really stressful day today, actually, because I was just saying to that Richard before, you know, it's a really stressful day today, and I'm feeling kind of, you know, the emotions here, kind of anxiety wise about things that are going on, and being able to stop in those moments and know, God, your grace is enough for this, in this situation. I think, you know, my colleagues might react differently, might go to each other to offload, might go to each other to, you know, whinge about what's happening over here, or to, you know, and it's fine to go to my colleagues with that stuff, but God is my source. God's my first source for that, for what I need. The situation is, you know, I'm going to come to him and see him as the source of everything that I need, and then that gives me the capacity to reflect that to others in my interactions. So it's not, Bill says, a behavior modification thing. So I'm just going to pull it together and hold it together because I know God's in charge. It's not that. It's about going, no, actually, I receive from the source. I've got all I need. His grace is sufficient for me. And from that place, that gives me like this stable platform to then face these situations knowing, God's got it. He's got it. And that in turn affects how I interact with others, how I respond to their stress, how I respond to their requests of me, the things that they demand or they need of me. I'm drawing from a deeper well, if you like, because it's not me. It's not coming from me and what I've got.
Great.
So, yeah.
That's so good. On this other group that's running, and if you're on it and you can find a way to move across to this group so we can get your comments, then we would love that. Adam's asked a great question. Adam Scully, I hope I'm pronouncing your surname correctly. If not, just change your surname to match what I've said. I don't know what to tell you. And he's asked a great question. And Phil, I'm aiming this at you. How would you describe the tangible outward difference between the behaviors of someone who is living in and for the grace of Jesus and someone who is living of love and humility from a purely secular standpoint? What kind of is the difference between those two things?
Say that question again.
Sure. Nice, Phil. Nice stall. We are all impressed. This is the moment we should take a bite out of a rotten apple.
It's a good Adam question. He's great with these questions.
Adam.
Here we go. What is the tangible outward difference between the behavior of someone who is living in or for the grace of Jesus and someone who is living a life of love and humility from a purely secular standpoint?
Right. Yeah, that's
great question, Adam.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it highlights an important point. Like, none of us are suggesting that unless you've got Jesus, you can't be a nice person or a gracious person. It's just not. That's just not true. But I think the question of motivation is an important one. What is it that motivates us to become the kind of person we want to become? Now, there are lots of people that don't claim a relationship with Jesus, who live humbly and who live graciously. But the motivation behind that is a really interesting one to explore. Why would somebody, and I don't know the answer to this, so Adam, don't quote me or don't shoot me down, but why is it, do you think, that somebody chooses to live a humble and graceful life? What is the end goal of that? I would question whether in some way the motivation is to achieve my own sense of satisfaction, or to achieve, to become my own savior, in a sense. Does that, I'm trying to articulate what I'm thinking. Like, why do people live the way they live? Is it because I'm trying to achieve something? Is it because I want to be perceived in a particular kind of way by the world? And it might be that I want to be perceived as a charitable, humble, gracious person, because that gives me a sense of fulfillment. It gives me a sense of meaning and purpose in life, which is fine and noble and admirable. But the motivation of the Christian is entirely different. The reason we Christians aim for a life of humility and graciousness and godliness is not because we want to achieve something. It's because we have received something, We've received something that we didn't deserve. And because of that receiving, which didn't happen just once, but happens daily, as Louise says, every breath we breathe is a gift of grace from God. It's because of that, and because of what God's doing in our hearts, that we begin to live differently. And it's a really difficult question to try and judge or assess people's motivations, is a really difficult thing. But I think without the grace of God, it's like this thing about altruism. Is that even a real thing? Are people good just to be good? Or is there always an agenda behind goodness? And that's a deep question. And it might be an offensive question to some people. But I think the decisive difference between someone who has the power of Christ at work within them is the question of motivation. What is it that's motivating me? Because there are lots of good people, right? Even I spoke about it on Sunday. The Apostle Paul, before he met Jesus, he was a good person, right? He said, in terms of keeping the moral code, he says, I was better than anyone. There was no one better than me. But the kind of heart and personality that he had before he met Jesus was vastly different to what happened after he met Jesus. And so I hope that in some way makes some sense. But there is, I think Adam's right, like you can't often discern, or you can't sometimes discern an outward difference between people that are serving Jesus because of grace and people that are living a good life. Sometimes you can't tell that difference, and which is why Jesus says, don't just judge people by what they look like or how they behave. I hope that makes sense. It's a good question.
I think it's
don't ask questions again.
I think it's a great point that you're pushing for, because I think ultimately what we're really talking about is starting points. The behavior is never the starting point, but for people who aren't driven because they've experienced the grace of Jesus and seeing that presence manifest in their lives, I think, I know I need to do some kind of good and set off to do that. And actually that's commendable. It's not a bad thing. But once you're experiencing the grace and that presence, you're no longer thinking, well, I better do something good. It's now a deep kind of heart push of I must do some. Cheers, Louise. Thanks for coming. Oh, you just waved it. That's what out the window.
Dom.
I'm going to mute Louise quickly while she's screaming and shouting for Dom. Go for it, Louise. You can scream and shout away. I think what happens is it actually becomes because I've experienced the presence of Jesus, because I'm experiencing this grace, I need to live my life now in a way that reflects what I've already seen, rather than I need to just do this because I should do good things, if that kind of makes any kind of sense. You wanted to say something, Joe?
Yeah, I think it's like a life of worship, isn't it? It becomes your worship. Your response is like, it's coming from a place of like love and adoration and of who God is, what Jesus has done. So this is not driven by a desire necessarily to do good. It's coming from a place of gratitude and just feeling overwhelmed by what God has given you, what Jesus has given you. So you want your life to reflect that. You want your life to bring glory to God. You want, so it's not about, look at me, I'm a nice person, I'm doing good, or I'm ticking all the boxes. This is about, no, like my life needs to reflect glory back on him. People need to look at me and see God is good and see, and want to worship him because of how I am. And my behavior, then therefore there's weight to my behavior, how I act, what I do with what I've been given, how I spend my time, how I spend my days, how I interact with people. It's weighty and it's important because it belongs to God. It reflects him. I'm owned and loved by him and bought with this price. Therefore, this stuff matters. So I'm desperate to know who's at your window, Lou.
Yeah.
We had a visitor, Mike Robbins. I don't know whether you know him. He's hilarious. He works for Compassion. He's just popped over.
That's great. I've just realized something. If I do this, it looks like I'm just ahead. I have no body.
Oh yeah. See, that's kind of what I look like because I've got a
head.
I've got a yellow
got
chair.
that going on, Louise. It's weird. I have to do that. Look, no, I'm not just a head. There's more. I have a body. I'm here. I don't know.
We
Really
did
know.
observe on Sunday. You had no face. You were just like black hat, black mask, black beard, black shirt. There was nothing in the middle. That was it.
Adam's just posted. Thank you all. Very helpful. So awesome. Good job there. Full. If there's one thing, Louise, that you're going from Sunday, this has really kind of impacted something into your week, what would it be? Like just what one thing, because I'm going to start wrapping this up. So one thing.
Oh, come on. One.
Louise,
I don't know, man. There was literally, I'm just looking at all my notes.
Gems.
I think it's the recognition that I need more of Jesus. Ultimately, I think sometimes I think I need more of other things to, I don't know, to be better, to live well. But ultimately, I just need more of Jesus. And that's always, to be fair, that every time Phil preaches, that's always what I leave with, thinking, what was I even reading that book for? I just need more of Jesus, or whatever.
Yeah, so good.
Well done.
Yeah.
And what about you, Joe?
Well, if you've taken the best answer now, the answer's Jesus, isn't it?
The answer's always Jesus, Joe.
The answer's always Jesus. There was a wonderful quote, and I was just literally reading it last night, and I'm not going to be able to quote it now because I've got the wrong notebook here, but it was about the inner transformation. That you did a wonderful encapsulating quote, and I felt like I've felt like I needed to put it on my notes in my phone, so it just pops up there as a kind of a life mantra, and I can't remember. It wasn't that impactful. The notebook next to my bed. But it was about the transformation that happens.
And on you, Phil, if there's one thing you want people to walk away with from Sunday, what would it be?
I think true transformation comes from greater revelation of the beauty of Christ. It's like I think I quoted it on Sunday, and I don't think there's a better line that encapsulates the pursuit and the process of holy living than that old song, turn your eyes upon Jesus, look full in his wonderful face.
Can you sing
I'm
it?
not going to sing it again.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's a gorgeous song.
The things of earth grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. I just think that is the journey of holiness. It's not getting more willpower, more knowledge. All those things are important, but only in the light of Jesus's beauty. Like this, like Louise was saying, discipline is important. Don't misunderstand, right? Discipline, spiritual disciplines are important, but actually the better language for spiritual disciplines is means of grace, right? That's what spiritual disciplines are. They're channels through which grace enters our lives. It's not just about me getting better. It's about receiving more grace. And I think the journey of holiness is becoming more and more aware of the sufficiency, the glory, and the beauty of Jesus, because in the light of his face, the things of this earth, they fade into insignificance. That's how good he is.
Amazing. That's so good. The thing I loved is how you ended on Sunday, which is maybe the question isn't have you got it, but rather has
it got you?
Yeah. And I thought it's such a great place for us to end. It's been great having kind of lunch with you guys, except for Phil. He's eating a rotten apple. I don't know what's going on.
It's really great. Some chips and sausage, I think.
It's getting worse. It's progressively got worse. We should have actually just
it's so funny
over the course of the whole time, just to watch that apple literally get down and down. Thank you so much.
What I love about Phil is that he's got such a high bar on so many things, but yet other things he's literally in the gutter. Like he'll eat that. Like Phil, he won't drink my coffee, but he'll eat that. Like really, Phil.
Come on, Phil.
I'm not eating it. Look, that's fine.
You have eaten it, mate.
If you leave it long enough, it'll look like it's coffee, like it's been soaked in coffee, and then maybe, you never know. You never know. It's been great spending lunch with you guys. Thank you so much, Joe, for taking the time out from work to come and eat leftovers and chat with us. Thank you, Louise Bird, for your What are you waving at Joe?
I'm
Dunn?
waving to Joe, but it's all backwards, isn't it?
Yeah. I was all like, has
that
a
way.
gnome invaded
That way.
your house that you're waving at them? Like, what is going on? Thank you so much for having your mug shot with us. Full. Thank you for just sitting there and watching your apple, the great down. And for everybody who's taken time out from their day to watch this and to kind of engage with us, thank you so much. If you were on the second group, sorry we didn't get to you. I have no idea what happened there, but there were some great comments from Hattie. Hey, Louise Dalrymple. Hey, Hattie, I hope you guys are doing well. We'll try and sort that out for next week. We are going to be back again next week. This Sunday, we got Adam Bird bringing a word and carrying on our series of Holy Joe. And we'll be back with some new guests, some fresh questions, and a time for you just to connect with us on Wednesday at 1 and eat your lunch with us. Other than that, we hope you have a great, great, great rest of your day. We've really enjoyed being with you this morning. Have a great time. See you on Sunday. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.